will tell you that you're being stubborn, be stubborn. Don't wait for change, be that change. Let's talk about not having a disabling environment, which we have right now. You cannot do it because you're a woman. वहाँ तो ऐसा environment ही नहीं है which is conducive to women. Whose fault is it? Whose headache should it be? That the environment is not conducive to women. The men, they need to straighten up their act. Don't exclude them. And including them, allowing them to be, who are you to allow anyone? Understand? You do not allow anyone to come into the legal profession. Your duty is not to stop them when they want to have a level playing field. And that brings me to the next part, which is appointment of judges when you hire lawyers. Terminology, let's look at the language. I was in A-levels, as far back as that. I was taught that, in law, he includes she. Again, we need to change the language. She includes he. And I'm very glad, as far as external examinations are concerned, I see a lot of progress being made there. Textbooks, they literally write she as an example. So, for example, if a customer wants to buy a product, she is going to make an offer. So I'm glad that the language is changing, but very slowly. Again, language as far as that is concerned, and I'm sorry, no offense meant to anyone. There are people here who do have their pages on social media. They do conduct interviews with female lawyers. A lot of electronic media persons as well. They are interviewing lawyers. Whenever it's a female, the same boring question, the same rotten question. How difficult is it to enter into this profession being a female lawyer? It's such a boring question, and I'm sorry to say very sexist as well, and I'll tell you why. Because men have their own challenges as well. Ask me, it's hell to break into any field, not just law, any field, even as a man. Why are your questions never worded in such terms, whenever you are interviewing a male interview? Why don't you ask, as a man, as a male lawyer, how difficult is it? No. Your question should be to both men and women as a recent graduate, as someone who is aspiring to launch a career. What are the challenges that you are likely to encounter, or that you do encounter, or that you did encounter? So let's focus on the kind of language you use. Again, judges, whenever it's a female lawyer, female judge, he just mentioned that whenever a female lawyer walks in, all her male counterparts, they stare as if, I don't know, some other worldly thing, extraterrestrial has entered into. Just habituate yourself to what might be different from you. Yes, they might be different, but you don't need to stigmatize them. You do not need to otherize, that's not a word, but you do not need to isolate them. Stop this division of us and them. People come in different forms, in different shapes, in different sizes. Learn to accept. Even with men this happens, If someone has an English accent, or if someone is maybe, well versed in the English language, ye to Bilawal hai. How they just start off, just because that person is different doesn't mean they're wrong. It means that you are very narrow-minded and you need to straighten up your act. The idea that women, they are going to eventually, they will have to settle down, they will have a family. You go to law firms, even I've been in the academic sector a lot, the job interviews go something like this. So when do you intend to get married? Whenever it's a female candidate. And why are we asking? Because obviously, our interests at stake. If we hire an employee and she gets married and then has a child, our business is going to suffer. Oh, I'm sorry, but a man might also take a paternity leave, who knows? He might, have some other family commitments to deal with once he gets married. Why don't you ask the same question? Again, as far as appointment is concerned, even at now judicial level, just look at Article 175A. What a missed opportunity. Who are they appointed by? All male members, nearly, because you've got Supreme Court judges, you've got the Chief Justice, all male. There's never been a female Supreme Court judge. Do you realize that? So, why is it that we have such few women at the top-notch positions within the legal fraternity or within the legal field? Is it because women have not been working in this particular arena? Is it that it's a very recent phenomenon? I'm sorry, but yes, you did mention, Ms. Asma Jahangir, but mostly because the media has been talking a lot about her, because she created a lot of trouble, and rightly so, for all these men, for the patriarchal system. But those who have been working at their own pace, in their own way, it's not that they were never there. If you say that they never existed, well, thank you, you again completely removed them, erased them from history. Entirely wrong. If that were the case, why do we have such talent sitting here right beside me? Why? How come that we've got, lawyers like Qadir, or we've got, people like Justice Nasr Iqbal? I can come up with so many examples. So, do you mean to say that they've just entered the profession? I'm sorry, but as far back as the history of this country dates, like 7 decades back, women have been working tirelessly, both in law and politics. So you're a liar if you say that no, the reason why they're not sitting at topmost positions, why there's no Supreme Court judge, why there's why there's no Islamabad High Court judge that is a female, the reason is because you have been excluding them. Have you set in motion any criteria? The criteria is experience, your experience, your advocacy experience. Who gets to do that? Men. Why mostly? All the women have been doing, I've just mentioned. Because you exclude women and you tell them that you cannot do this. It's not your prerogative to tell them what they can do. They will determine it. Through trial and error, they will get there, because through trial and error, you also got where you are. Again, hardly any mention of any equal representation on the judicial bench. Compare this to the Judicial Appointments Commission that England and Wales has. And also compare it to the Crime and Courts Act 2013, which they just introduced. What does the Crime and Courts Act 2013 says? That whenever there is a judicial candidate, one male, white, privileged, the other candidate is someone who belongs to an underrepresented group, and they are both of an equal merit. Prefer the one that is coming from an underrepresented group. Not because she's a woman, but because I just said underrepresented. So you have to balance it out, because if you don't balance it out, the quality of legislation is just what it is like at present, or the quality of judgments or the precedents that judges set is going to be exactly like that. You look at the law, it's so distorted. The female view is so distorted. We talk about harassment laws, rape laws. Oh, rape and sexual harassment means where the woman was not consenting. Okay, fine. How do we define consent? Look at the case law, always from the perpetrator's viewpoint, never from the victim's viewpoint. Ask her, did you feel violated? No. We are going to define consent from the male's perception, or from the perception of the one against whom the case is being brought. Hence, women know that legal forum is not going to afford them with any redress whatsoever. You come to family law, and the acts. I'm just going to name some of them, like, Guardian and Wards Act 1890, Dissolution of Muslim Marriages Act 1939 or something, British Raj period, colonial era, and you already know they had a very narrow mindset when it came to women. They hated women. Do we hate? No, we don't. So should we reform ourselves? Yes. Should we update the laws? Yes. Because you've got judges telling what a good mother is like in child custody cases. Oh, a good mother is one who nurtures the child, who looks after the child, who's there at home. And if she has to fetch for herself and for her child, you cannot grant custody to such a woman, because then the child wouldn't have any female caring figure on his head. And if a woman gets remarried after divorce, she loses any preferential rights over child custody, but that is not so when it comes to her male counterpart. So both the written text of the law as well as when it comes to its application. Who have you got there? I just recently mentioned, okay, I wouldn't name names, but there have been cases quite much in the limelight. A lot of women have alleged one very prominent sexual harassment. And I predicted already, who is going to be deciding a case? All men. Men. Same old story, same old laws, same old output. So, we need to, the input needs to be changed, so that we see the results that we are waiting for, or else we'll only be waiting. I would just like to ask them, just answer me in either man or woman, or men or women. Who ever committed honor killing, men or women? Who have been the guilty ones in honor killing crimes? Men, alright. Who have ever been guilty in rape crimes? Who brought this whole nation to a lockdown recently? Men, all men. Look at the pictures, they are all men. Whoever started, come to that, whoever started both the first and the Second World Wars, who were they? Men. Their systems have failed. Hence, we need to have different voices as well. They have been consciously excluding the other, and so whenever the other wants to voice themselves, do not trivialize them. Do not say they are false allegations. That is me talk about not just Me Too, but every single time that we talk about inclusivity not just of men, not just even of women, but of all gender groups, of all classes, any any particular point on which we can differentiate ourselves from one another, don't differentiate, connect to one another, let every single voice be heard. Because this system has failed, you've just proven it. Well, I'd just like to say that please be able to identify when you've been harassed and do not doubt yourself. Pursue your claims.
Yeah.
The world will tell you that you're being stubborn, be stubborn. Don't wait for change, be that change. I think that's all I'd like to say.
Yeah.